Imagine waking up without an alarm clock. No rush hour traffic, no boss demanding updates. Just you, your purpose, and a day fully under your control. For most people, that sounds like a fantasy. But what if I told you, it's not only possible, it's the future? This is why you never need a 9-5 to succeed. Not a story about quitting your job overnight, but about reclaiming your freedom, redefining success, and building a life that's not limited by a paycheck. The world has changed. Opportunity no longer hides in offices or job boards. It's in creativity, courage, and connection. This audiobook will open your mind, challenge everything you've been told about success, and show you how to build a meaningful, independent life on your own terms. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Illusion of Security. For decades, society has painted a comforting picture. Get a stable job, work hard, stay loyal, and everything else will fall into place. It's a belief system deeply woven into our upbringing, reinforced by our parents, teachers, and even governments. The 9-5 job was presented as the ultimate destination, a place where consistency and effort were rewarded with safety and dignity. But beneath that surface lies a truth most people only discover when it's too late, that security is often just a story we've been told to keep the system running smoothly. The illusion of security begins early. As children, we're taught that life follows a predictable script. Go to school, get good grades, earn a degree, land a job, and live happily ever after. The job becomes the prize, the validation that we've made it. Yet what happens when the company you work for suddenly restructures? When automation takes over your role? When markets shift or new technologies disrupt entire industries overnight? Suddenly, the ground beneath your so-called secure life starts to shake. Look around and you'll see it everywhere. People who dedicated decades to their companies are being let go with a short email and a severance package, barely enough to cover a few months of bills. Promises of long-term stability crumble under economic downturns, management changes, or global crises. The job that once felt like a fortress now feels like quicksand. The truth is, no job, no matter how prestigious, is immune to change. Companies are not families, and they were never designed to be a business. Exists to serve its mission, its shareholders, and its bottom line. You might care deeply about your company, but the company's loyalty to you only lasts as long as you remain profitable. It's not personal, it's just the nature of the system. The illusion of security thrives because it's comfortable to believe in it. It gives people a sense of order, a false peace that if they play by the rules, they'll be protected. But comfort is often the most dangerous trap of all. Think of the secure job as a cage with padding. The salary cushions you, the benefits soothe you, the routine numbs you. You start to trade your dreams for predictability, your creativity for compliance, your time for a paycheck. Slowly, you begin to shrink into the role that was assigned to you, not the one you were meant to create. You stop taking risks because the cage feels safe, even though the door has always been open. The illusion of security doesn't just control your finances, it shapes your mindset. When you depend entirely on an employer for your income, your identity becomes tied to that job title. You begin to measure your worth by promotions, salaries, and performance reviews. When things go well, you feel powerful. When things go wrong, you feel lost. That dependency creates fear, fear of change, fear of failure, fear of the unknown. And fear is what keeps people stuck in jobs they hate for years, even decades. But real security doesn't come from employment. It comes from empowerment, from knowing that you can adapt, learn, and create value no matter where you are. It comes from developing skills that are transferable, ideas that solve problems, and a mindset that thrives in uncertainty. When you build those things, you become your own safety net. Let's redefine what security means. Security isn't having a fixed paycheck. It's having the ability to generate income in multiple ways. Security isn't about a company giving you stability. It's about building stability through self-reliance. True security comes when you know that if everything collapses, if your job disappears, if your industry changes, you can still rise because your value doesn't depend on a single system. In today's world, flexibility is the new safety. The people thriving now aren't necessarily those with the most traditional experience. They're the ones who know how to pivot, how to learn fast, and how to think creatively. The pandemic, for example, exposed just how fragile the old idea of stability really was. Entire industries halted overnight. Millions lost their jobs. Yet out of that chaos, a new wave of creators, freelancers, and entrepreneurs emerged. They discovered that their real power wasn't in the job they lost, but in the skills and ideas they carried within them. Imagine two people, one who depends on a single employer for income, and another who has built several small streams of income, freelancing, investing, teaching, consulting, or selling digital products. When the economy shifts, who's truly safer? The one with the job may seem more secure on the surface, but one layoff can erase their entire safety net. The other, with multiple skills and ventures, may earn less consistently at first, but over time, they build something stronger: control over their life. Control, that's the real currency of security. The ability to choose how and where you work. The power to say no when something doesn't align with your values. The confidence to walk away from environments that don't appreciate your worth. You don't get that control from a job description. You build it through independence and self-mastery. If you think back to history, the idea of lifelong employment is relatively new, a product of the industrial age. Factories needed predictable labor, so they created systems that rewarded compliance and punished deviation. Schools mirrored that model, producing workers, not thinkers. But the world has shifted. We're no longer living in the industrial era. We're in the age of innovation, creativity, and digital independence. Yet many people are still living by old rules that no longer apply. You are not meant to be a cog in a machine. You're meant to be a creator in motion. Every time you rely on one paycheck, you're essentially handing over your freedom in exchange for comfort. You may think you're safe, but that safety is conditional. One decision from someone above you can change your entire future. True safety is when no single person has that kind of power over your life. Breaking free from the illusion doesn't mean quitting your job tomorrow. It means changing how you think about work. It means using your current job as a stepping stone, not a destination. Start learning new skills outside your 9-to-5. Build a side project. Invest in your creativity. Create something that belongs entirely to you, something that can grow, evolve, and sustain you, regardless of the economy. The people who thrive in this new era are not the ones who cling to comfort, but the ones who build capability. They understand that the world rewards adaptability, not loyalty. They don't fear losing a job because they know how to create opportunity wherever they go. That's the mindset of the modern worker, someone who doesn't depend on the system but works alongside it, using it as a tool, not a master. So the next time you hear someone say, "At least I have job security," remember, this security built on dependency isn't real security. It's convenience disguised as control. True security is the ability to stand on your own, to reinvent yourself, to thrive even when the old system fails. When your skills, ideas, and mindset can create value anywhere, you become unstoppable. You no longer fear change, you welcome it. You no longer cling to what's comfortable, you chase what's possible. And in that moment, you'll realize that the greatest illusion you ever believed was that you needed a job to feel safe. The world doesn't owe you stability, but it offers something far more powerful: endless opportunity. The illusion fades the moment you open your eyes, and what's waiting beyond it is freedom. Chapter 2. Redefining success. For most of our lives, success has been handed to us as a formula. Study hard, get a degree, land a respectable job, climb the corporate ladder, retire comfortably, and you've made it. That's the story we've all heard, repeated so often, it feels like truth. But when you look closer, that formula no longer fits the world we live in. The definition of success has changed. And if you don't redefine it for yourself, someone else will. The old model of success was built for a different era. It was designed for a time when stability mattered more than creativity, when opportunities were limited, and when making it meant blending in rather than standing out. But today, the landscape is unrecognizable. The internet has opened endless possibilities. You can build a business from your bedroom, reach millions from your phone, or turn your passions into income streams that didn't even exist 10 years ago. Success is no longer about finding a place in the system. It's about building your own. The biggest trap of traditional success is comparison. We measure ourselves against others, their titles, salaries, possessions, and recognition, and use that as the standard for our own worth. But the problem is, you're comparing your inside story to someone else's highlight reel. You see their success but not their struggle, their confidence but not their doubt. You see the surface but not the cost. True success doesn't come from measuring up. It comes from tuning in, understanding what truly fulfills you, and having the courage to pursue it, even if it looks nothing like what society celebrates. Think about how often success is tied to external validation. You get praised for promotions, applauded for achievements, and admired for appearances. But the applause fades quickly. And when it does, you're left with a haunting question: is this all there is? Many people spend their entire lives chasing someone else's version of success. The car, the house, the corner office, only to realize it never brought them the peace they were looking for. Success, in its truest form, isn't about addition. It's about alignment. It's not about how much you acquire, but how aligned you are with what matters to you. It's the quiet satisfaction that comes from knowing you're living authentically, not performing for approval. When your work reflects your values and your goals reflect your truth, you no longer need validation. You create your own fulfillment. To redefine success, you first have to unlearn what you were taught about it. Success is not a ladder, it's a compass. It doesn't point upward, it points inward. It guides you to the work that makes you feel alive, to the challenges that make you grow, and to the people who make you better. The higher you climb on someone else's ladder, the further you may drift from your own direction. The moment you decide to follow your own compass, you stop chasing and start creating. Look around at the people you admire most, the innovators, creators, and change makers of the world. Their success rarely followed a predictable path. Many of them dropped out, failed repeatedly, or walked away from conventional careers. What set them apart wasn't luck or privilege, it was clarity. They knew who they were, what they wanted, and why they were willing to risk comfort for purpose. Success is not a destination. It's a decision to live intentionally, to bet on yourself, and to measure your life by meaning rather than milestones. The beauty of redefining success is that it puts the power back in your hands. You no longer have to wait for a promotion, a raise, or recognition to feel worthy. You can define success as spending more time with your family, building something that helps others, creating art that moves people, or simply living with peace of mind. When you redefine success, you stop asking, "Am I doing enough?" and start asking, "Am I doing what's right for me?" In this new age, success is measured by freedom. The freedom to choose how you work, where you live, and who you become. It's measured by how aligned your daily actions are with your deepest purpose. You can earn millions and still feel empty, or earn modestly and feel fulfilled, because the real wealth is not in the numbers, but in the meaning behind them. This shift in thinking is uncomfortable for many, because it challenges everything we've been taught. Society thrives on comparison. It keeps people striving for the same goals, buying the same products, and chasing the same dreams. But when you step out of that cycle, you begin to see how hollow it really is. The house, the job, the lifestyle, none of it defines you, you define it. True success is deeply personal. It's the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you're on your path, not someone else's. It's waking up with purpose instead of pressure. It's loving what you do, not because it's easy, but because it's yours. It's the realization that you don't need a title, a salary, or a status symbol to be proud of who you are becoming. If you can wake up every day and say, "I'm growing, I'm learning, and I'm free," you've already achieved more than most, because success isn't a place you arrive at. It's a state you live in. It's not measured in achievements, but in alignment. It's not about proving yourself, but expressing yourself. The future belongs to those who redefine success on their own terms. The ones who understand that life is not a competition but a creation. The ones who measure their progress not by how far they've climbed, but by how true they've stayed to their purpose. When you begin to live by that definition, you stop trying to fit into a system and start creating a legacy that fits you. So let go of the old script. Success isn't about chasing status, climbing ladders, or meeting expectations. It's about becoming the author of your own story. When you redefine success, you stop living for applause and start living for impact. You stop working to impress and start working to express. Because in the end, success is not what you have, it's who you've become. And when you live in alignment with that truth, you realize something powerful. You never needed a job, a title, or anyone's permission to succeed. You only needed yourself. Chapter 3. The Rise of the Creator Economy. There was a time when power belonged to the few, to the gatekeepers, corporations, publishers, studios, and executives who decided who got to speak, who got to create, and who got to succeed. If you wanted to share your work, you needed permission. If you wanted to make a living from your ideas, you had to fit into the molds they built. That era is over. The internet has rewritten the rules, and the keys to opportunity are now in your hands. The creator economy is not just a trend, it's a revolution. It's the greatest shift in how humans work since the industrial age. For the first time in history, individuals can turn their creativity, skills, and knowledge directly into income, without middlemen, without approval, and without limits. You don't need to wait for a company to hire you or a producer to discover you. You can build your own platform, your own audience, and your own brand. This new world doesn't care about your resume. It cares about your value. Can you teach, entertain, inspire, solve a problem, connect people? If the answer is yes, you can create. Every video uploaded, every post written, every idea shared is a digital seed that can grow into something powerful. The barriers that once separated amateurs from professionals are disappearing, replaced by authenticity, consistency, and creativity. Think about it. One person with a phone can reach more people in a day than entire companies could 20 years ago. One freelancer with a laptop can serve clients across continents. One creator with a story can build a movement that changes lives. The tools that used to cost thousands are now free. The audience that once required a network now lives at your fingertips. The question is no longer can I, but will I? The rise of the creator economy is about reclaiming control of your work, your income, and your time. In a traditional job, your creativity often serves someone else's vision. You trade your best hours for a paycheck and your freedom for security. But as a creator, your creativity serves you. Every piece of work you make has the potential to live forever online, earning attention, income, and impact long after it's created. That's not a job, that's ownership. Ownership is what separates the old economy from the new. In the industrial world, you owned nothing but your labor. You gave your time to someone else and received money in return. But in the creator economy, you can build assets, digital products, content, brands, and audiences that continue to grow even when you're not working. Your work compounds over time. A video posted today might bring income a year from now. A book written once can sell forever. An idea shared can open doors you never knew existed. And yet, with this new power comes new responsibility. Freedom sounds exciting, but it demands discipline. The creator economy rewards consistency, resilience, and authenticity. It's not about quick fame. It's about building trust. Audiences don't just want content, they want connection. They don't follow perfection, they follow purpose. If you can show up consistently, offer value, and speak with honesty, you can build something that lasts. There's a misconception that being a creator means being an influencer. But the truth is, the creator economy is much broader than that. It includes educators, coaches, designers, developers, podcasters, consultants, and artists. Anyone who uses their skills and ideas to create value for others is a creator. It's not about followers, it's about freedom. The number of people watching you matters far less than the impact you make on the people who do. The traditional economy taught us to seek permission, to wait for opportunities. The creator economy teaches us to create them. You no longer have to wait to be chosen. You can choose yourself. Start a YouTube channel, write an ebook, launch an online course, sell your design, offer your expertise. The tools are available to everyone, but few have the courage to begin. The ones who do will shape the future. Look around. People are building empires from their kitchens, their bedrooms, and their laptops. Teenagers are turning hobbies into brands. Parents are starting businesses between school runs. Retirees are teaching what they've learned to the next generation. This is not a small movement. It's the democratization of opportunity. For the first time, you can succeed by being you. The beauty of this new era is that there's no single path. Some creators earn by teaching. Others earn by entertaining. Some build communities. Others build products. Some do it part-time. Others full-time. There's no boss, no ceiling, no one to tell you what's possible. You define your limits and your potential. But here's the truth. Success in the creator economy doesn't happen overnight. It's built through patience, experimentation, and constant learning. You'll fail, adjust, and grow. You'll face doubt, both from yourself and others. But every post, every project, every connection brings you closer to freedom. You're not just creating content, you're creating a life that belongs to you. This new economy rewards courage. The courage to start without knowing the outcome. The courage to share your voice even when it's shaky. The courage to keep going when no one's watching yet. That's what separates the dreamers from the doers. If you look deeper, the rise of the creator economy is more than just a financial shift. It's a spiritual one. It's about people realizing that their creativity, their ideas, and their individuality are their greatest assets. It's about millions of people waking up and saying, I don't want to just survive. I want to create, to contribute, to live on my terms. That's what this revolution is really about. The traditional world rewarded conformity. The creator world rewards authenticity. The old world wanted efficiency. The new one wants expression. In the past, you were told to stay in your lane. Today, you can build your own road. We are witnessing a global awakening. A time where the barriers between dream and reality are thinner than ever. Whether you're an artist, a thinker, or a teacher, the stage is wide open. The tools are free, the platforms are waiting, and the audience is listening. All that's missing is your voice. You don't need permission to start. You don't need credentials to create. You don't need a company to succeed. You just need to believe that your story, your skills, and your perspective matter, because they do. The creator economy isn't coming. It's already here. And the ones who dare to embrace it will redefine what success looks like for generations to come. Chapter 4. Unlearning what you've heard being taught. From the moment we step into a classroom, we're trained to follow rules. Sit still, listen carefully. Don't question authority. Memorize what you're told, repeat it on the test, and you'll be rewarded. It's a system built not to create thinkers, but to produce workers, efficient, obedient, and replaceable. We call it education, but what it really does is prepare people to fit into the machine. The problem is, that machine no longer works the way it used to. The world that school prepared you for, the world of stable companies, predictable careers, and lifelong employment, has vanished. Yet, most people are still playing by those same outdated rules. They chase degrees for validation, not skills for evolution. They seek approval instead of curiosity. They measure intelligence by conformity, not creativity. To truly break free from the 9-5 mindset, you must first unlearn the conditioning that taught you to depend on systems that no longer serve you. Unlearning is not easy. It's uncomfortable because it requires you to question everything you've believed about success, work, and security. You've spent years being told that safety comes from structure, that risk is dangerous, and that failure is shameful. But the truth is the opposite. Structure without growth is a cage, risk is where freedom begins, and failure is the greatest teacher you'll ever have. In school, mistakes are punished. In life, they're necessary. You can't build a business, create art, or pursue passion without failing first. Every successful person has stumbled, fallen, and gotten back up more times than they can count. The difference is that they learned not to see failure as an end, but as feedback. When you unlearn the fear of failure, you unlock the courage to experiment. And that's where real progress lives. Another belief you must unlearn is that authority always knows best. From teachers to bosses, we've been trained to seek permission before we act. We wait to be told what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. But the new world doesn't reward obedience. It rewards initiative. If you wait for someone to choose you, you'll wait forever. Freedom begins when you choose yourself. In this new era, knowledge is no longer locked behind institutions. The internet has made education limitless. You can learn anything, anytime, from anywhere. You can access mentors, communities, and resources that expand your perspective far beyond traditional systems. But to use that power, you have to let go of the idea that learning only happens in a classroom, or that success only comes with a certificate. Real learning is self-directed. continuous, and often messy. It happens when curiosity replaces compliance. We were taught to specialize narrowly, to pick one career, one role, one lane, and stay in it. But the world today rewards versatility. The most successful people are not the ones who know one thing deeply. They're the ones who can connect ideas across disciplines. They blend art with science, technology with storytelling, business with empathy. The more you explore, the more creative you become. Unlearning means giving yourself permission to be a beginner again, to explore, to mix, to evolve. You must also unlearn the belief that hard work alone guarantees success. We've been conditioned to believe that effort equals reward, that if you grind long enough, you'll be noticed. But in today's world, working hard isn't enough. You must also work smart. The person who learns to automate, delegate, and innovate will always outpace the one who simply works harder. The future belongs to those who think differently, not those who blindly push forward. Unlearning also means freeing yourself from the constant need for validation. We've been taught to crave approval, grades from teachers, praise from bosses, likes from strangers online. But real freedom begins when your worth is no longer dependent on external recognition. The world doesn't owe you applause. What matters is that you're building something meaningful, something that aligns with your values and vision. The process of unlearning is about stripping away the noise until what's left is your own voice. It's about questioning inherited beliefs. Why do I believe I need a job to feel secure? Why do I think success means having a title? Why do I assume failure means I'm not capable? Every belief you challenge brings you closer to freedom. You'll face resistance, not just from others, but from yourself. Your mind will fight to protect the familiar, even when it's limiting you. That's because unlearning threatens your comfort zone. But growth never happens in comfort. The moment you start questioning the way things have always been, you open the door to a new way of living, one defined by purpose, not programming. The people who thrive in this new age are lifelong learners and fearless unlearners. They don't cling to what they know. They adapt to what's next. They understand that wisdom isn't about having all the answers. It's about staying open to new ones. They don't wait for the world to tell them what to do. They invent their own path. When you begin to unlearn, you rediscover your natural creativity, the curiosity you had as a child before the system taught you to color inside the lines. You begin to see opportunities where others see obstacles. You stop asking for permission to live and start giving yourself permission to grow. Unlearning is not rebellion, it's evolution. It's not about rejecting everything you were taught, but about re-examining it through the lens of who you are now. It's about keeping what serves you and releasing what doesn't. The world is moving too fast for rigid beliefs. Adaptability is the new intelligence. So ask yourself, what beliefs are holding you back? What lessons served you once but limit you now? Maybe it's the idea that you need stability to be safe. Maybe it's the fear that starting over means failing. Maybe it's the belief that you're too late to change. Whatever it is, it's time to let it go. Because the truth is, the future doesn't belong to those who know the most. It belongs to those who can unlearn the fastest. The ability to question, adapt, and reinvent yourself is the ultimate skill. Once you master it, you'll never fear change again. The system taught you to survive. Unlearning teaches you to live. And once you do, you'll never go back to the version of yourself that waited for permission to begin. Chapter 5. Building self-belief. Everything you dream of creating, the freedom, the success, the independence, begins with one invisible force: belief. Before the business, before the money, before the recognition, there must be conviction. Without belief, talent fades, ideas die, and opportunities slip away. But with belief, even the impossible becomes possible. Self-belief is not arrogance, it's awareness, the understanding that you have the power to shape your life, no matter where you start or how many times you fall. Most people never realize how much their lives are governed by doubt. They don't take chances, not because they lack ability, but because they've been convinced they're not capable. Society teaches us to look outward for validation, to measure ourselves by grades, salaries, titles, and approval. But the truth is, everything that defines your worth already exists within you. No one can give you belief. You have to build it, brick by brick, through the way you think, act, and respond to challenges. Belief begins in your thoughts. Every action you take, every risk you avoid, every dream you chase or abandon is first decided in your mind. The stories you tell yourself shape your reality. If you believe you're not ready, not smart enough, not talented enough, your mind will find proof to support that story. But if you believe you can learn, grow, and adapt, you'll begin to see opportunities where others see obstacles. Your mindset becomes your compass. The most dangerous thing about self-doubt is how quietly it operates. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It says, maybe later, maybe after you're ready, maybe after you have more experience. But later never comes, and ready is a myth. Every person you admire, every author, creator, or leader started uncertain. The difference is, they acted despite the doubt. Confidence isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to move forward even when fear is loud. Building self-belief is not about pretending to be fearless, it's about trusting yourself in the presence of fear. When you decide to take one small action, to publish your first post, make your first call, start your first project, you build proof that you are capable. That proof becomes confidence, and confidence becomes momentum. It's not magic, it's repetition. Belief grows through consistent evidence that you can handle what life throws your way. The challenge is that we've been conditioned to seek external permission to believe in ourselves. We wait for others to tell us we're good enough before we start. But what if no one ever does? What if the world is waiting for you to give yourself permission? The truth is, belief is built in silence, when no one's watching, when no one's clapping, when no one's validating your effort. You plant it in private, and it blooms in public. You will face doubt from others too. People project their limitations onto those who dare to dream. When someone says, "That's not possible," what they often mean is, "I couldn't do it." Don't let someone else's fear become your ceiling. The moment you start believing in yourself, you'll notice how uncomfortable it makes those still trapped in doubt. That's not your problem. Your job is not to convince them, it's to become proof that belief works. Self-belief doesn't mean you'll always win. It means you'll never stop trying. It's what allows you to fail and still move forward, to hear no and keep going, to face setbacks and still see potential. Every person who has ever achieved something meaningful has faced rejection. They didn't avoid it, they grew through it. Belief is not about never falling. It's about trusting that you'll rise every single time. Think about how you talk to yourself. Most people are their own harshest critics. They repeat their mistakes, magnify their flaws, and minimize their strengths. But your words shape your world. If you constantly tell yourself you're not ready, you never will be. If you constantly remind yourself of your failures, you'll stay trapped in them. Speak to yourself the way you would to someone you love, with patience, compassion, and encouragement. That's not delusion, that's self-respect. Building self-belief is a daily practice. It's built through consistency, showing up even when motivation fades, doing the work even when results are slow, and choosing progress over perfection. Every time you honor your word to yourself by keeping a promise, finishing a task, or pushing through discomfort, you strengthen your trust in you. That trust becomes your foundation. There will be days when belief feels fragile. You'll question everything: your direction, your value, your purpose. That's normal. Growth doesn't happen in a straight line. But when you face those moments, remind yourself why you started. Remind yourself of the times you thought you couldn't and still did. You've survived every challenge so far. You've overcome things that once felt impossible. That's proof that you're stronger than your doubts. Another secret to building self-belief is surrounding yourself with energy that reinforces it. The people you listen to shape your perspective. Spend time with those who inspire, challenge, and uplift you, not those who drain your ambition. Read books that remind you what's possible. Listen to voices that encourage you to grow. Protect your mind like you would protect your home, because everything begins there. But the ultimate source of belief doesn't come from others. It comes from taking action. Action is the antidote to doubt. The more you do, the more you realize how capable you are. Waiting for confidence before taking action is like waiting to get stronger before you start exercising. You gain confidence by doing. You become capable by acting. You build belief through experience. The world will try to convince you that belief must come from results, that you can only feel confident once you've proven yourself. But that's backwards. Results come after belief. Every great idea, invention, or movement began with someone who believed first and acted second. If you wait until you feel ready, you'll never start. If you start before you're ready, you'll discover readiness along the way. You must believe in your ability to figure things out. You don't need all the answers. You just need faith that you'll find them. The people who succeed are not the ones who know everything. They're the ones who trust themselves enough to learn anything. That's the essence of self-belief. Not knowing how, but knowing you will. There's a quote that says, "The moment you doubt whether you can fly, you cease forever to be able to do it." That's the truth. The mind limits what the heart dares to imagine. When you stop doubting your wings, you'll realize you were never meant to crawl. So start believing now. Believe before you see results. Believe before the applause. Believe before anyone else does. Because belief is what turns effort into excellence, dreams into reality, and potential into power. Self-belief is the foundation of freedom. Once you build it, you can lose everything. A job, a plan, a title, and still rebuild from nothing. Because belief makes you unstoppable. It's not given, it's earned through courage. And once you have it, you'll never need to be rescued again. Chapter 6: Skills over Titles. In a world that's constantly changing, clinging to titles is like holding on to smoke. The letters after your name, the position on your business card, the label in your email signature, they might look impressive, but they don't guarantee relevance anymore. The truth is simple. The future doesn't reward titles. It rewards skills. What you can do will always matter more than what you're called. For most of history, titles were everything. They signified authority, stability, and respect. A doctor, a manager, a director. These titles defined your worth in society. But the new world operates differently. It no longer asks, "What's your title?" It asks, "What can you create? What can you solve? What value can you bring?" The people who thrive today are not those with the most prestigious labels, but those with the most adaptable skill sets. Think about how fast industries are shifting. Entire careers that existed 20 years ago are now obsolete. Meanwhile, completely new roles, social media strategists, UX designers, AI trainers, virtual consultants, have emerged almost overnight. The only thing that keeps you relevant in this kind of world is your ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn. A title might open one door, but a skill can open 1,000. The danger of relying on titles is that they create a false sense of accomplishment. People spend years chasing promotions, climbing ladders, and collecting labels, only to realize they've built their identity around something fragile, lose the job, and the title disappears with it. But skills stay with you. Skills are transferable, portable, and timeless. You can lose a company, a market, or an industry, but no one can take away what you know how to do. Skills are freedom disguised as competence. The more skills you have, the more choices you have. When you know how to write, sell, communicate, lead, design, or analyze, you're never truly stuck. You can pivot, adapt, and reinvent yourself in any environment. Titles may define your past, but skills define your future. Building skills is not about collecting certificates or attending workshops just for the sake of it. It's about solving real problems, applying what you learn, and staying curious enough to grow. Skills are like muscles. They develop through practice, not theory. Reading about swimming will never teach you how to float. You have to dive in. In the old system, people believed in specialization. Stick to your lane. But the new economy rewards those who connect multiple lanes together. The writer who understands marketing, the designer who understands psychology, the engineer who understands storytelling. The future belongs to the hybrids, people who can think across disciplines and bridge gaps between ideas. The most valuable skill of all is learning itself. The ability to absorb new information, apply it quickly, and stay open to change is what separates the average from the exceptional. You don't need to know everything, you just need to know how to learn anything. Once you master that, the world becomes your classroom. Let's look at what this means in practice. In a corporate world, someone might say, "I'm a manager," but that title doesn't explain what they can do. Can they lead a team through chaos, communicate clearly, inspire people to act? Those are skills. A freelancer might say, "I'm a content creator," but the skill is in understanding audiences, crafting emotion through words, and adapting to different voices. Two people can share a title, but their skills set them worlds apart. If you want to build true independence, focus on stacking skills that multiply your impact. A single skill is good, combining skills is power. For example, knowing how to speak is valuable, but knowing how to speak and persuade is transformational. Knowing how to write is useful, but knowing how to write and market your message can change your life. The intersection of your skills is where your unique value lives. Every time you learn a new skill, you add another layer of opportunity to your life. You might start as an employee, but as your skills grow, you gain leverage. You can consult, teach, create, or lead. You can step into roles that didn't exist before, because your combination of skills creates new possibilities. That's how people move from dependency to freedom, not by waiting for a promotion, but by making themselves irreplaceable. We often overestimate the value of titles and underestimate the power of mastery. A title can impress someone for a moment. Mastery inspires respect forever. People might admire your position, but they'll remember your ability. Titles fade, impact doesn't. To focus on skills means embracing humility. You must be willing to start from zero, to learn something new even when it's uncomfortable. That's how you stay relevant. The greatest learners are not those who think they've arrived. They're the ones who stay curious no matter how far they've come. When you stop learning, you stop growing. And when you stop growing, your titles stop meaning anything at all. The modern world rewards those who take ownership of their development. Waiting for a company to train you is like waiting for a storm to pass before you build a boat. The time to build your skills is now before you need them. Every course you take, every book you read, every project you finish builds your resilience against uncertainty, because the truth is, the world doesn't get easier, you get stronger. It's also important to remember that soft skills, communication, empathy, problem-solving, adaptability, are just as valuable as technical skills. Machines can do calculations faster than humans, but they can't connect, inspire, or understand emotion the way we can. In the age of AI and automation, your ability to think, feel, and create will be your most powerful advantage. When you stop chasing titles and start mastering skills, something amazing happens. You regain control. You're no longer at the mercy of promotions or approval. You no longer wait for recognition. You create your own path, your own opportunities, and your own freedom. You move from being replaceable to indispensable, not because of what you're called, but because of what you can contribute. Ask yourself, if your title disappeared tomorrow, what would you still be able to offer the world? The answer to that question determines your true value. Titles are temporary, skills are permanent. The person who knows how to adapt will never be obsolete. The person who knows how to learn will never be lost. So stop clinging to labels. Build capabilities instead. Focus less on what fits neatly on a resume and more on what makes you resilient, creative, and free. Because in the end, it's not your job title that defines your success. It's your ability to grow beyond it. The future doesn't belong to those who have the best titles. It belongs to those who have the best skills. And when you master your craft, no one can ever take that from you. Chapter 7. Multiple Streams of Freedom. For generations, we were told that the key to stability was a single steady paycheck, one job, one employer, one source of income. That idea worked in a world that moved slowly, where industries stayed constant for decades and retirement came with a pension. But that world doesn't exist anymore. The modern economy is unpredictable. Technology evolves faster than education, and global events can shift everything overnight. Depending on one paycheck today is not security, it's risk. Real freedom now comes from having multiple streams of income, or as I like to call them, multiple streams of freedom. Let's be honest. Relying on a single job is like standing on one leg. It works until it doesn't. The moment that job disappears, your balance disappears with it. But when you build multiple ways to earn, you're not just making more money, you're creating options. Options to pivot, to breathe, to choose how you live and work. Financial freedom isn't about being rich. It's about being unshaken when one stream dries up because others keep flowing. The beauty of today's world is that anyone can create multiple income streams. You don't need to be a millionaire or a CEO. You just need curiosity, skill, and persistence. You can freelance, consult, teach online, sell digital products, invest, start a small side brand, or even monetize your knowledge. The tools are accessible to everyone, and the barriers to entry have never been lower. But to build multiple streams of freedom, you must first shift your mindset from employee to creator, from consumer to producer, from dependent to independent. This isn't about chasing money for the sake of it. It's about designing a life that isn't controlled by a single paycheck or boss. When you diversify your income, you reclaim control over your time and energy. You stop trading your hours for someone else's dream and start using your creativity to build your own. Each income stream you create becomes a pillar of stability, supporting your freedom one step at a time. Start small. One of the biggest misconceptions about multiple income streams is that you need a lot of money to start. You don't. What you need is resourcefulness. Maybe you start freelancing with the skills you already have. Maybe you sell something online that solves a problem for others. Maybe you teach something you've mastered, mentor someone, or share your experiences on a platform. Every stream starts as a trickle. Over time, those trickles can become rivers. In the digital era, information is the new currency. You can turn your knowledge into an income source in countless ways. Write an ebook, create an online course, start a YouTube channel, or coach others. Every person has experience or insight that someone else needs. You don't need to be the best in the world. You just need to be willing to share what you know. The value you offer determines the opportunities you attract. But here's the truth. Most people avoid building multiple streams of income. Isn't easy. It requires patience, discipline, and a long-term view. You'll need to learn, experiment, and fail repeatedly. You'll have to sacrifice comfort now for freedom later. But the reward is worth it, because once you build multiple streams, you'll never see work the same way again. You'll stop depending on anyone to decide your future. You'll realize you can design it yourself. Let's break down what these streams can look like. The first is active income, the money you earn by trading time for value. Freelancing, consulting, or teaching are great examples. The second is semi-passive income, income that takes work up front, but continues to earn afterward, like digital products or online content. The third is passive income, money that works while you don't, like investments, royalties, or real estate. Most people start with active income, then gradually shift toward passive. The goal is simple: build systems that make your time your own again. The secret to multiple streams is not spreading yourself thin, but spreading your value wide. Focus on areas where your skills, interests, and market needs overlap. If you're good at communication, maybe one stream is freelance writing, another is coaching, and a third is a digital course on communication skills. If you're in design, one stream might be client work, another selling design templates, and another teaching design principles online. The idea is to use your core skill set in multiple ways. The great thing about having several income sources is how it changes your mindset. Suddenly, you stop fearing uncertainty. You stop panicking over layoffs or economic shifts. You begin to think like an owner, always asking, how can I add value? How can I create something that lasts? You develop creativity, problem solving, and confidence. You become resilient because you know that even if one door closes, you've already built others. It's also important to note that multiple income streams don't just create financial freedom, they create mental freedom. When your bills are covered by different sources, you gain space to think, to rest, and to dream. You start making choices based on desire, not desperation. You start saying no to toxic jobs and yes to opportunities that excite you. You begin to live intentionally, not reactively. That's true wealth, having the freedom to design your life. However, don't confuse freedom with chaos. The key to managing multiple streams is structure. You need focus, time management, and systems. Automate what you can. Batch your work. Prioritize what brings the most long-term results. The goal is not to work more hours. It's to make your hours work for you. If you find yourself overwhelmed, simplify. You don't need 10 income streams. You just need a few strong ones that align with your strengths. Another vital skill is learning how to make your money work for you. Saving is good, but investing multiplies your effort. Whether it's in stocks, index funds, businesses, or your own personal development, every investment should move you closer to freedom. When you think like an investor instead of a spender, your entire relationship with money changes. Money stops being something you chase and becomes something you control. The concept of multiple streams of freedom isn't just financial, it's emotional and spiritual too. Each new stream you build teaches you something about yourself. It builds confidence, independence, and creativity. It reminds you that you're capable of generating your own opportunities, that you are not just a worker in the system, but a builder of your own world. Imagine a life where you wake up knowing your future doesn't depend on a single company's decision, where you can take a break, explore new passions, and still earn where your time belongs to you. That's what multiple streams of freedom give you, not just wealth, but peace of mind. You don't have to build it all at once. Start where you are, with what you have. The first stream is the hardest. The next comes easier, and before long, you'll look back and realize something profound. You were never meant to live for one paycheck. You were meant to live in abundance of ideas, of opportunities, of freedom. The goal isn't just to make a living anymore, it's to make a life powered by creativity, not dependency. A life where money serves your purpose instead of controlling it. Because true success isn't having one big source of income, it's having the freedom to choose, the courage to create, and the wisdom to never depend on just one door when the world is full of them. Chapter 8. Redefining work-life balance. For most of us, the phrase work-life balance has been repeated so often, it's become meaningless, corporate slogan, disguised as self-care. Companies preach it, employees chase it, but almost no one actually lives it. Why? Because the concept itself is broken. It assumes work and life are two separate forces battling for control, like weights on opposite sides of a scale. But what if the goal isn't balance at all? What if the real goal is alignment? Designing a life where your work and your living no longer fight each other, but flow together. Traditional work-life balance was born from the industrial age, a time when work was physical, repetitive, and clearly defined. You clocked in, did your shift, and clocked out. The separation between work and personal life was clear. But in the digital era, those lines are gone. Work follows us home, notifications never sleep, and off the clock barely exists. The problem isn't that we're working too much, it's that we've forgotten why we're working in the first place. The truth is, you can't balance your life if your work drains your soul. You can't find peace if your days are filled with tasks that don't reflect your values. Balance doesn't come from fewer hours, it comes from meaningful hours. It comes from building a life where what you do aligns with who you are. The 9-5 world taught us to survive the week, so we could live on weekends. But that's not balance, that's postponement. That's living in fragments, not in wholeness. To redefine work-life balance, you must start with a question most people never ask. What does fulfillment look like for me? Not for society, not for your boss, not for your parents, for you. Once you answer that, everything changes. Because balance isn't about splitting time evenly between work and life. It's about designing your days around what actually matters. Some seasons of life will demand more work. Others will demand more rest. Balance isn't static. It's fluid, like a tide that rises and falls with your priorities. Many people treat work as the enemy of life, but the truth is, the right work is an expression of life. When your work aligns with your purpose, it doesn't drain you, it fuels you. That doesn't mean every day is easy. It means you're connected to something deeper than a paycheck. You're building, contributing, and creating in ways that reflect who you are. When work becomes an extension of your passion and values, the line between work and life blurs, not because you're overworked, but because you're fulfilled. But to reach that point, you have to detach your worth from productivity. The world glorifies busyness, as if exhaustion were a badge of honor. "I'm so busy" has become a humble brag, but all it really says is, "I've lost control of my time." Productivity is important, but not at the cost of peace. Being busy is not the same as being effective. True balance comes when you stop measuring your days by how much you've done and start measuring them by how much you've lived. Redefining balance also means learning to say no, not as rejection, but as protection. Every yes to something meaningless is a no to something that matters. You don't need to fill every minute of your day to feel valuable. Sometimes, the most productive thing you can do is rest, reflect, or simply be. In a world addicted to motion, stillness is a form of strength. Work-life balance isn't about escaping work, it's about escaping misalignment. If your job constantly makes you anxious, exhausted, or empty, no amount of time off will fix it. You can't heal from burnout in the same environment that caused it. Sometimes, the answer isn't to work less, but to work differently, to shift toward projects, roles, or businesses that fit your rhythm instead of fighting it. The people who live freely today aren't those who quit working. They're those who built work that fits their life. They created systems instead of schedules, flow instead of friction. They learned that balance is not found in hours, it's found in harmony. The artist who paints at midnight and sleeps till 10. The freelancer who works from anywhere. The parent who builds a business around family time. These are not rebels. They're realists who've realized that life is too precious to divide into boxes labeled work and living. Technology has made this possible, but mindset makes it sustainable. You must believe that rest is not laziness, that joy is not indulgence, and that slowing down is not failure. Success is not how fast you move, it's how aligned you are with your direction. When your daily actions reflect your values, you stop chasing balance and start living in it. Another trap we fall into is waiting for the perfect moment to rest, travel, or create space for what we love. But perfection never arrives. There will always be deadlines, responsibilities, and reasons to delay your joy. Balance isn't found in the future. It's built in the present. It's the choice to pause, to breathe, to reclaim your time, even when life feels full. You don't have to earn rest. You simply have to allow it. True balance requires boundaries. It's saying, my peace matters more than my inbox. It's closing the laptop when your body says stop. It's not checking messages during dinner, not because you're lazy, but because you're living. Boundaries don't limit your ambition, they sustain it. Without them, burnout becomes inevitable. With them, your creativity thrives. One of the most powerful shifts you can make is to redefine success through lifestyle, not labor. Instead of asking, what do I want to achieve? Ask, how do I want to live? The answer will guide your work choices, your time, and your goals. If your success costs you your health, your peace, or your relationships, it's not success, it's sacrifice, disguised as ambition. There's a quiet revolution happening. People rejecting hustle culture and redefining success as peace, purpose, and freedom. They're not lazy, they're awake. They've realized that life is not a ladder to climb, but a canvas to fill. And when your work becomes part of that art, when it supports your life instead of consuming it, you don't need to balance anymore. You're already whole. The truth is, work-life balance isn't about equal halves. It's about intentional wholeness. It's knowing when to give and when to rest, when to create and when to simply be. It's building a life where fulfillment is not confined to weekends and happiness is not something you schedule. It's something you live. When you find that rhythm, everything shifts. Work stops being a burden and becomes a blessing. Life stops feeling divided and starts feeling designed. That's not balance, that's freedom. Because in the end, the goal isn't to escape work, it's to create work that makes you feel alive. And when you do, you'll discover something far more powerful than balance, harmony between who you are and what you do. That's when life stops being a tug of war and starts becoming your masterpiece. Chapter 9. The Fear of Freedom. Everyone says they want freedom, financial freedom, creative freedom, freedom of time, but few are truly ready for what it demands. Freedom sounds glamorous when you're trapped in routine, but when it finally arrives, it can be terrifying. Because freedom doesn't just remove your limits, it removes your excuses, and for many people, that's far more uncomfortable than the cage they were trying to escape. The truth is, most of us have been conditioned for dependency. We've been taught to seek structure, instruction, and approval. We're comfortable when someone tells us what to do, when to do it, and how success will be measured. That's why so many people stay in jobs they hate, not because they love security, but because they fear the unknown. Freedom means you have to make your own rules, set your own schedule, and hold yourself accountable. There's no one to blame if things fall apart, and that level of responsibility scares people more than failure itself. Freedom looks different than people imagine. It's not endless vacation days or waking up late without a care. True freedom is self-direction. It's discipline without supervision, focus without external pressure, and meaning without permission. It requires you to lead yourself. It demands that you know who you are and what you stand for. Because once you're free, there's no system left to hide behind. You have to become your own structure. When you first step into freedom, whether that's leaving a job, starting a business, or simply choosing to live on your own terms, there's often a strange silence. The noise of obligation fades, and suddenly you're alone with your choices. That silence can be deafening. It's in that space that many people panic. They crave the comfort of routine, the certainty of direction, the illusion of safety that came with the old system. It's not that they don't want freedom, they just don't know how to handle it. Fear of freedom is really fear of uncertainty. The human mind craves predictability. We like knowing what's next. Even if it's not ideal, the unknown triggers anxiety because it forces us to trust ourselves, and self-trust is a muscle most people never learn to build. It's easier to let someone else take the wheel than to admit we're capable of driving. But if you never take the wheel, you'll never go anywhere worth reaching. There's also the fear of judgment. When you break away from the traditional path, people around you will project their doubts onto you. They'll say, "Are you sure that's a good idea? Or what if it doesn't work?" They mean well, but their fear speaks louder than their faith. You'll have to learn to separate their voices from your vision. The path to freedom is often lonely, not because others don't support you, but because few understand the courage it takes to walk it. But here's the secret. Fear and freedom are inseparable. You can't have one without facing the other. Every new level of independence comes with a new level of fear. The key is not to eliminate fear, it's to walk with it. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision that something else matters more. If you wait until you're fearless to start, you'll wait forever. When you take control of your life, you'll encounter moments of self-doubt so strong they make you question everything. You'll wonder if you made a mistake leaving comfort behind. You'll feel the pressure of uncertainty and the temptation to go back to what's familiar. But remember, comfort zones are cozy because nothing grows there. The discomfort you feel is not a sign that you're failing. It's proof that you're evolving. Freedom requires structure, but the difference is that you get to design it. You decide your schedule, your goals, your priorities. That sounds liberating, but without clarity, it can quickly become chaos. That's why self-discipline is the foundation of freedom. Without discipline, freedom becomes distraction. You must learn to manage your time, energy, and attention like a professional, because no one else will. Freedom is not the absence of responsibility, it's the mastery of it. It's easy to romanticize independence, but it's built on consistency, not comfort. The entrepreneur who works from home, the artist who sets their own schedule, the digital nomad who travels the world, they all live by routines that most people can't see. They plan, create, and execute with purpose. Freedom gives you space, but what you fill it with determines your future. There's another subtle fear hidden within freedom, the fear of identity loss. For years, your title, your job, or your environment may have defined who you are. When you step away, you lose that external identity. You're forced to ask, who am I without this role? It's a confronting question, but it's also a liberating one. Freedom gives you the chance to redefine yourself based not on labels but on truth. In the beginning, freedom will test you. It will test your patience, your focus, and your faith. You'll have days when you doubt the path, when the results don't match your effort, when you feel unseen. But those are the moments that build resilience. That's when you learn that freedom isn't a reward, it's a responsibility. It's not given, it's earned, every day through your choices. Eventually, something shifts. The fear that once paralyzed you starts to fade. You begin to trust your instincts, to follow your rhythm, to lead yourself with confidence. You realize that the uncertainty you once dreaded is now your greatest advantage, because it means anything is possible. You no longer see freedom as frightening. You see it as fertile, a space to create, to fail, to rise, to live. Freedom will ask you to grow beyond who you were. It will strip away the habits, the excuses, and the dependencies that kept you small. It will force you to confront your fears, but in doing so, it will reveal your power. Every time you choose growth over comfort, you weaken fear's grip. Every time you take action despite doubt, you reclaim a piece of yourself. You were not born to live inside someone else's schedule. You were born to build your own life, one of purpose, expression, and self-determination. Yes, freedom is uncertain. Yes, it's uncomfortable, but so is every form of greatness. In the end, the fear of freedom is just the fear of yourself, the part of you that's limitless, unpredictable, and powerful beyond measure. That fear is natural, but it's not your enemy, it's your invitation. Because the moment you stop fearing your freedom, you begin to truly live it. And when that happens, when you step beyond comfort, beyond approval, beyond fear, you don't just become free, you become unstoppable. Chapter 10: Living Beyond Limits. At some point in your life, you've probably been told to be realistic. You've been warned not to dream too big, not to take too many risks, not to want too much. Maybe they said it out of love, to protect you from disappointment. But what they were really doing was teaching you to live small, to stay safe, to stay ordinary. And that's how most people spend their lives, trapped not by circumstance, but by belief. Living beyond limits isn't about denying reality. It's about redefining it. It's the decision to stop accepting the boundaries that were handed to you and start creating the ones that serve you. The limits we face are rarely physical. They're mental. They're built from years of conditioning, of comparison, of fear. But here's the truth. The walls that confine you exist only if you keep believing they do. The moment you decide they don't, they begin to crumble. We live in an age where the tools to create, connect, and build are in everyone's hands. Yet most people still act like they need permission to begin. They wait for confidence, for clarity, for the perfect timing. But freedom and success don't wait. They respond to motion. Living beyond limits means moving forward before you feel ready, trusting that progress will create the path as you walk it. The people who achieve extraordinary things are not the ones with fewer fears, they're the ones who stopped letting fear make their decisions. It's easy to think limits are external: money, time, background, opportunity. But look closer. For every obstacle you can name, there's someone who started with less and did more. The difference isn't luck, it's perspective. Some people see walls and turn away. Others see walls and start climbing. The truth is, your circumstances might shape your path, but they don't define your potential. You do. When you choose to live beyond limits, you stop asking, "Can I?" and start asking, "How can I?" You start focusing on possibilities instead of problems. You begin to see your challenges not as signs to stop, but as signals to grow. Every limitation becomes a lesson, every setback a redirection. The limits that once held you down start becoming the boundaries that shape your strength. But here's something few people admit: living beyond limits is lonely at first. When you outgrow the boundaries that others live within, they'll call you unrealistic, reckless, or arrogant. They'll question your choices because your courage confronts their comfort. But don't let their fear infect your vision. You're not here to live their version of life. You're here to live yours. You see, when you start to expand, the world around you begins to resist. Systems, traditions, even relationships may push back, trying to pull you into the familiar. That's how growth works. The moment you step outside the lines, you challenge everything that thrives on keeping people small. It's not easy. It's uncomfortable. But that discomfort is the birthplace of freedom. Living beyond limits also means taking responsibility for your potential. You can't blame the system, your past, or your circumstances forever. At some point, you have to stop waiting for permission and start creating momentum. The world doesn't owe you opportunities. It offers them to those who act. Once you realize that, you stop feeling powerless. You start seeing yourself as a builder, not a bystander. The key to breaking limits is awareness. You have to notice the invisible rules that shape your behavior, the stories that tell you what's possible, the expectations that define success, the fears that whisper you're not enough. Every time you identify one and choose differently, you reclaim power. You expand the edges of your life. Living beyond limits isn't about chasing constant achievement. It's about expanding who you are. It's about doing things that stretch you, challenge you, and remind you that you're capable of more than you think. It's not about proving yourself. It's about expressing yourself. Because the more you express your potential, the more you inspire others to see their own. You don't have to leap over all your limits at once. You start small. You say yes when fear tells you to say no. You speak up when your voice shakes. You try again when you've failed before. Every time you stretch a little further, the boundary of what's possible moves with you. Growth isn't loud or dramatic. It's the quiet decision to keep expanding even when no one's watching. One of the greatest lies society tells us is that it's selfish to want more. But wanting more isn't greed. It's gratitude in motion. It's the recognition that life is a gift, and the best way to honor it is to use it fully. Living beyond limits isn't about taking from others. It's about giving more of yourself to the world, your creativity, your vision, your light. You will fail. You will stumble. You will doubt yourself. That's part of it. The goal isn't to eliminate failure. It's to stop letting it define you. Every failure carries wisdom, and every step forward builds resilience. The more you face, the more fearless you become. Eventually, you realize that the limits you once feared were never meant to stop you. They were meant to shape you. Imagine living a life where you're not controlled by fear, judgment, or expectation. Imagine creating, exploring, and growing without apology. That's what living beyond limits looks like. It's not about perfection. It's about presence. It's about showing up fully for your life, knowing that you are the author, not the audience. Freedom doesn't mean you'll never face obstacles. It means you'll never be owned by them again. It means you've learned that your power is not in control, but in courage. You can lose everything, your job, your comfort, your plan, and still be whole, because your sense of self no longer depends on circumstances. Living beyond limits is the final step in this journey, not because it's the end, but because it's where true life begins. When you stop living by old definitions of success and start living by your own design, every day becomes an opportunity, not an obligation. You stop surviving and start creating. You stop waiting for life to happen and start shaping it with intention. And here's the truth that most never realize: the limits were never real. They were stories handed down by fear and repeated until you believed them. But once you see through them, once you step beyond them, you realize something extraordinary. The world has always been wide open, and you were the one holding the door shut. So live boldly, live fearlessly, live beyond limits. Because the moment you do, you don't just change your life, you redefine what's possible for everyone watching you. And that is the real definition of success. You've reached the end of this audiobook. But in truth, this isn't the end at all. It's a beginning. A new way of seeing, thinking, and living. You've walked through the myths of security, the redefinition of success, the power of skills, belief, freedom, and alignment. You've seen that the system we were raised to trust was never designed for true independence. It was built for stability, not growth. And while there's nothing wrong with stability, you now know that safety isn't found in systems, it's found in self. The real message of why you'll never need a 9-to-5 to succeed isn't to quit your job tomorrow or rebel against structure. It's to awaken, to realize that your value, your freedom, and your purpose don't depend on employment, approval, or permission. They depend on you. You are the asset. You are the brand. You are the foundation upon which everything else is built. When you learn to trust that, when you build skills, discipline, belief, and vision, you become unshakable. You stop waiting for opportunity and start creating it. The world will keep changing. Industries will rise and fall, but creators, learners, and believers will always rise because they've built something no one can take away: adaptability, courage, and faith in themselves. Freedom isn't a destination. It's a daily practice. It's choosing authenticity over approval, purpose over comfort, creation over consumption. It's waking up each day knowing that you don't work for the system, you work for your dream. So as you close this book, remember, you are not defined by your job. You are not limited by your past. And you are not waiting for permission to begin. Your life is yours to design, boldly, freely, without limits. Now go live it.